Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
We all love a good story.
Oh yeah.
And especially those stories about when advice goes hilariously wrong.
Yeah, those are good
Like,
ones.
those moments where someone's trying to be helpful,
Right, right.
but it just totally
No,
backfires?
really.
And in this deep dive,
We're going to explore some of those real life examples of advice gone wrong.
I love it.
And hopefully we'll learn a thing or two along the way.
Maybe even have a good laugh.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot to learn.
From those situations where,
Advice doesn't quite land as expected.
exactly. And, I was just thinking,
About one of the articles you sent me
okay.
about this guy who, he gets this amazing financial advice from his friend.
Oh.
Right, to invest all his savings in this sure thing business.
Oh, I've heard these stories before.
And guess what the business was? Selling inflatable kayaks
Oh, come on.
in the desert.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Right. I mean, talk about a mismatch.
Yeah, it's like,
It's like advice out of context,
totally.
Like maybe selling inflatable kayaks is a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. If
You're somewhere with water.
near a lake or an ocean, right?
Exactly.
But in the desert, it
But-
just doesn't make sense.
It makes no
It's
sense
like trying to fit a square peg.
in a round hole.
Exactly.
And it reminded me,
Of this time when...
I followed this friend's fitness advice.
Oh.
Very diligently, by the way.
Okay.
They were convinced that running barefoot was the key
Oh, no.
to avoiding injuries.
So like, okay, I'll give it a shot.
My feet were not happy.
No, I can imagine.
It was a painful experiment.
It's so interesting how
What works for one person?
doesn't necessarily translate to
Totally
another
nice.
person.
These like we all
These unique needs, preferences,
That's your slave.
circumstances,
like
this one-size-fits-all
right.
approach to advice just doesn't work.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder.
How can we, get better at recognizing bad advice?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right, before we end up with a garage full of inflatable kayaks.
Exactly. I mean, I think a big part of it is
Really considering the source.
okay.
Is this person...
Actually qualified to be giving advice on this topic.
Right,
Do they have any experience?
right. Have they been successful
Yeah.
in this area where they're giving advice?
Have they actually
Walked the walk.
yeah, it's like taking financial advice.
From someone who's filed for bankruptcy 3 times.
Yeah, probably not the best source.
Maybe not the best source, right. And I guess it's also about,
Evaluating the advice itself.
yeah, absolutely.
Does it align with, my values, my goals?
Right.
Does it feel right in my gut?
Sometimes your intuition can be
Really tell
it's that little voice inside.
that's saying, are you sure about this?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
but, what about when we're the ones giving the advice?
Oh, that's a good question. How can we make sure that we're not the ones?
Leading our friends into a desert full of inflatable kayaks.
Right. I mean,
It starts with listening,
okay.
really actively listening.
To the other person,
Right.
trying to understand their
Yeah,
situation.
needs.
Right, their perspective.
Yeah, before jumping in.
With all the
So
answers.
it's sometimes people just need someone
To listen,
Yeah.
to be there.
to be a sounding board.
Yeah, to bounce ideas off of.
Exactly.
Always think about that saying,
Advice is what we ask for.
oh, yeah,
When we already know the answer, but wish we didn't.
it's so true.
Right.
Deep down, we kind of know.
But we just need someone to,
To validate it.
validate it. Yeah, or to help us think through it a little bit more.
And I think even when we do offer advice,
It's really helpful to frame it as a suggestion.
Okay.
Rather than,
a directive.
a command, you
Yeah.
must do this.
Yeah, instead of saying, you should definitely do this.
You could say something like,
Have you considered this approach?
what do you think about this?
Exactly.
Because it's more of a collaborative
A collaboration.
kind of a conversation.
Exactly.
So it seems like the key takeaway here
Is that navigating the world of advice?
requires a good dose of self-awareness,
Definitely.
critical thinking,
Yeah.
and maybe a sense of humor
Oh, absolutely.
to laugh off those inevitable missteps.
Because we all make them.
We all do. We all do.
And sometimes the best stories.
Come from those advice mishaps.
Exactly.
Those detours that we didn't expect.
Yeah. And it's all part of the learning process, right?
Absolutely.
From ourselves.
And for those we're trying to help.
It's all a journey.
It is. It is.
Well, now we want to hear from you.
Think back to a time when you received advice.
That backfired spectacularly.
Maybe it led to a funny situation.
Maybe it was a painful lesson.
Share your experience with us.
We'd love to hear about it.
Because we all have those stories.
We all do.
And it's okay to laugh about them now.
Exactly.
So, until next time.
Happy advising.
And careful listening.
That's right. Take care, everyone.